You are.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Thursday night. So it's 7 o'clock, and here we are. And thus far, I don't hear any ringing or
So far,
audio loops or anything like that.
seems
So
okay. I don't see the people logged on here, so let me refresh this screen
Okay.
over here.
sounds good.
Maybe it will show them. Ah, so it said I was logged out, but I was logged in.
Oh, okay.
Okie dokie. Let me log in.
Okay, here we go.
I was logged in. That's weird.
Ta-da.
Let's try
There
it.
we
I was
are.
gonna say Angie's already
There
always
you
always
are.
already
Hello,
on.
Miss
She already
Carolyn.
like beats
Hello,
us.
Angie.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello,
So
Carolyn.
we'll give people a few moments to sign on. So
It's I don't know if it's raining in Ohio, Angie, but it's raining like cats and dogs around here. Although we worked on pigs today, but
we did, but we were in a barn.
we
so it was
were
good.
in a very beautiful, dry barn, but it was very rainy and wet outside. We don't usually have days like this where it's kind of been like light raining and then steady, harder raining like all day. So,
Freezing rain and snow. Well, ours
freezing
is not
rain.
freezing.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. We don't
Yeah.
have the freezing
It's
part.
not freezing. But
Yeah, so glad to see you guys are on here. It says 5 additional guests are viewing somewhere.
Carolyn, we hope
Hi,
you're
5
safe.
additional guests. So glad you're here.
right.
Feel free to click on something to join us. Usually you can
Hamburger.
say, well, there's a hamburger,
Yeah.
which is the 3 lines. They call that a hamburger.
Hi, Robin.
I think that's funny. So you can click on the hamburger or you click on join or log in. And we'd love to have you log in and chat. We are also on YouTube under Foundations in Creation /242 Ministries, just so you guys know. We do live stream it both places here on live.exclaimed and then on YouTube under our own ministry channel. So it's multi-purpose,
There you go.
multifaceted.
There
You
you
know,
go.
God's getting the word out.
Hey, Robin.
Hey,
Thanks
Robin.
for joining us. So, yeah, we heard that it rained really, really hard where you are.
Really flooding
So
and I'm
hopefully
just
you'll-
praying that all of the people in the mudslide areas don't lose anything. Just mud goes around their valuable properties or their cars or things
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
Because we know with all this rain, there's going to be some serious
Oh, yeah.
land movement.
Yeah.
But just praying that God keeps a firm foundation under some of this situation. Because boy,
Exactly.
it's so sad to, after fires now, mudslides. You know,
Mudslides. Yep.
that's always what happens. But it's just such a sad thing to hear about.
Yeah. So tonight we're getting close. We're getting close to the
Close.
end of the book of Numbers. Wow, can you believe it?
Numbers.
When did we start?
April of 24.
So April,
I believe.
April of 24. We've been in the book
Yeah.
of Numbers. So
I believe it was April
Yeah.
because you can look on it's easiest for me to look on our YouTube channel
right.
and you can
So those
see.
of you who have been following us, so we'll see how far we get tonight. Okay, because we have chapter 34 and then chapter 35. There's one more chapter after that,
'Cause if
and
you
then
look
we will
there-
do a summary of all of the chapters of the book of Numbers.
Right,
before
with
we-
a Twitter summary.
Twitter
'Cause
summary
we
of-
discovered when we did Genesis, that gentleman that made a Twitter summary. So basically a 1-sentence summary of every chapter
chapter.
of the book. So we've done it for Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus. So we're going to do Numbers.
So it's a
and
fun
then-
way to recall
Yeah,
all
it's
the
super
things that
fun.
we've learned and read and stuff
All
like
right,
that.
let me see. I'm going to
So-
tell you. I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, she's looking it up.
I'm telling
so-
you,
but-
but it's not letting me.
But yeah, so
Oh, here we
tonight
go. Numbers.
we'll see how far we get. So I'm gonna stop believing or stop thinking that we're gonna get through a whole chapter.
Just don't say it.
Because we don't. Hey,
So-
Miss Lori, thanks for joining us. So
We did
But-
Numbers chapter 1. We did it. It says 1 year ago.
1 year ago.
But
Okay.
it was February 8th of 2024.
A year. We've been in this
So-
book for 1 whole year.
So this week kind of marks the full year.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So
Alrighty then.
and we're almost done. We almost did
Okay.
a book in a year. That's pretty good,
That's
actually.
pretty good.
Because
Pastor-
Exodus was a lot longer. So was Genesis. So
Pastor Paul would be impressed. It
I
only took
was
us a year.
wondering.
So, but anyway. But here we
Intro
go.
and chapter 1, part A. So we only did half of chapter 1 or part of it.
So that means you've been sticking with us for a year. We thank you so much for your faithful
Many of you have been here
participation
since
and-
Genesis, so
Yeah,
that's
so we are
been
indeed very grateful
even
for
longer,
each of
so
y'all
we really
tuning
appreciate
in
that.
each and every time.
yeah.
So here we go. We're going to try and wrap up chapter 34 tonight. We're talking about the anticipated.
Oh, let me put this
The
screen up.
anticipated.
Let me put the split screen up. There we
yeah,
go.
there we go.
There you go.
The anticipated division of the promised land amongst the tribes, and we'll see that it's not just a land grab. It's not just an Oklahoma land grab. That it's very orderly, and there's
Because God's a God of order.
a process to it,
Not a
and-
God of
and
chaos. Hey, Lori Hoyt. Good to see you.
So here we go. Let's
Here we
wrap
go.
this
Woo! We got to clap our hands. I like clicking on those little emoji things. Okay.
up.
Anyway, so okay.
Starting in verse 13.
Verse 13 of chapter 34. Oh, 34. That's right. We're in 34. Hey, Robin says, oh, we were with you from Light and Life. Oh, yeah. Some of us,
That's
some of
true.
y'all were with it when it used to be just Pastor Dan teaching on Wednesday nights.
Right.
So when we started the online thing on Thursdays, it ended up being the two of us together. So,
Yeah.
but yes, I know many of you actually were with us back in the Light and
Way
Life
back
days. That was super fun,
Yeah.
and looking forward to journeying on through the Torah. So one more book in the Torah after this. We got Deuteronomy. So what's Lori say? Oh, Monday was a 35th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
Well, congratulations
Happy
on that.
anniversary.
See, time passes, and we like to honor the passing of time with so many cool things. So thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that, Lori.
Whoa.
I know.
There we go.
Oh yeah, this isn't working.
Okay.
I got to click there.
So
Okay,
here we go.
So, verse 13 of chapter 34 in the book of Numbers. So, Moses commanded the sons of Israel, saying, this is the land that you are to possess by lot, which means casting the lots, which the Lord has commanded to give to the 9.5 tribes.
Because remember,
Anybody know? Yeah, why? Why was there only 9.5? What happened to the other 2.5? Anybody remember? There was 2.5 that said, it was, they said it was Reuben and,
We'll show the map.
oh, Dan's going to show a
Yeah,
map.
I have a map.
So Reuben and Dan?
Nope.
Oh,
Gad.
Reuben and Gad, and then half of Manasseh.
Yep.
The tribe of Manasseh. They said, oh, we want to get property on the other side of the Jordan.
Right.
So just a couple of chapters back. And Moses was like, what? You're not going to help us? This is not good. And then
So-
they kind of came to an understanding, but they got their wish.
Right. So the promised land was on the other side of the Jordan, and 2.5 tribe, and one of the half tribes, the son of Joseph, opted to stay on the west side of the Jordan. So, and God gave them permission to, but they had to give the firm promise that they would still come to the mutual aid of their countrymen.
Yeah, they would go to battle to help conquer the promised land because they saw a really nice place to land on the way in.
Right.
And they said, oh, we just want to stay here. And God was like, and this is the difference between being in God's perfect will and God's permissive will.
Yes.
So I just think this is a great example of that concept, you know. I mean, people say, well, you know, because God gives us free will overall. So, you know, it's, you know, we think, well, God told me to do this or God told me to do that. And God does. He gives people, he clearly here, you know, it's in black and white. He commanded them to go into the promised land and destroy all the peoples that were there. And he would give them victory and give them that land. But they had to go to battle. They had to be willing to cross the Jordan and go to battle. And then these 2.5 tribes said, oh, but we kind of like it over here. Can we
Right.
settle here? And God said, you know, so God's will was very clear. You know, we have here in the Old Testament many, many times, like, this is what God said to do. So do it. Are you going to be obedient? You know, and some of us, you know, like these 2.5 tribes are like, well, yeah, I'll do that, but can I do it like this? You know, and God, that's an example of how God gives us free will, you know, in his creative process. He created us with free will, the ability to choose to follow him or not, the ability to choose to believe in him or not. So, you know, God created humankind with that ability. So, that, and he still will bless us if our heart is still after him and we worship him and we honor him. But can you see how we're not, they're not following his perfect will?
Right.
So there's probably going to be some consequences, and there will be over time.
There will be over
Like
time.
we've been studying in Ezra.
Yeah. Verse 14.
So verse 14, for the tribe of the sons of Reuben have received theirs according to their fathers' households, and the tribe of the sons of Gad according to their fathers' households, and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their possession. The 2.5 tribes have received their possession across the Jordan, opposite Jericho, eastward towards the sunrise. Basically on the east side of the
East side.
Jordan
I think
instead
I
of
said
the
west earlier, but
Well, no,
yeah.
you said everyone else was going on the west side.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I heard you say. So then you have a map.
Right. So, yep.
Here's
So
our
a quick map.
map.
And we'll see this map again later on in
I
our
can make
in our
it big
study.
here. Hold on.
So, whoa, there we go.
I'll make it big. There we go. So
Right.
now we can talk about the map for a second.
The Jordan River
Oh, yes.
running right through the center of that map.
So you see there's 2 Manassehs.
Mhm.
Yeah, one on the right and one on the left.
Mhm.
Got it.
Okay, but Gad and Reuben opted to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Okay, and this map will mean more later as we go through the narrative, the verses for tonight. But all 12 tribes are represented here. And if you recall, if you were with us during our portion of the study of Numbers when when a census was taken, now ostensibly the census was to determine the number of capable, eligible fighting men in preparation for the army.
Right.
But it also was a very good insight into the overall relative size of the tribes in comparison to each other.
Right. The first census was about the people eligible to serve, and then the second one was about eligible to go to battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so the bodies of water is the one at the top, that smaller body of water, is that like the Sea of Galilee? And then the
believe
one at
so.
the bottom is the Dead Sea?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering
I
that.
believe so, yeah,
I just was wondering.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
so
and
now we're back on the split screen.
there we go. Oh, split screen, there we go. So, verse 16.
Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, these are the names of the men who shall assign the land to you as an inheritance, Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, and you shall take 1 leader of each tribe to assign the land as an inheritance.
In other words, God is setting up the administrative structure. Again, this wasn't supposed to be a free-for-all where the strongest tribe or the strongest family grabbed the land. This was to be administered and overseen. And we see the creation of a governmental hierarchy here to watch over the land and help the tribes settle into these new lands. So of course we have Eleazar, the high priest, after the passing of his father, Aaron. Okay, and then Joshua, who's been made Moses' faithful and righteous second man the entire time. Okay, he's been there faithfully serving the people, and he's been exercising wisdom and devotion and faithfulness in God, and so he will be the de facto leader once Moses passes. Because remember, they have not yet crossed over into the other side of the Jordan River. When they do, Moses will not be accompanying them, as was told to him by God previously, many years prior. Okay.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It is what I thought. The Sea of
Galilee,
Galilee is the top smaller body, and the larger body is
They're
Dead Sea.
both very sizable portions or
Yeah, I was
bodies
just
of water.
curious
Yeah,
how
yeah.
which one. I thought.
So we see. So the next few slides are going to be about the administrative assignments. Okay, and this will make more sense in a little bit. So here we go.
Verse 19, these are the names of the men of the tribe of Judah. Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. Caleb is the only leader who was selected as a tribal leader back in Numbers 13.
Okay, remember when, back in Numbers, they were, again, attempting to instill order and leadership and essentially military personnel. And Caleb was the only one of these men that are going to be named that will now have administrative responsibilities as far as the management of the land goes, or the assigning of the land to all of the various people, tribes that come. And again, remember, there's always that caveat that the way God structured it way back in, I think, Exodus, that the land would eventually, there would always be a restoration, no matter
Sorry.
how the land was sold or divvied up, or it would always, every so many years, every 50 years, it would go back to the original landholders. So these administrative jobs are very important.
Right.
Okay, very important.
Hi, Brian.
So, Brian, thanks for joining us. So we have Caleb is the
Caleb.
overseeing the administrative or land distribution for the tribe of Judah.
Which is one of the larger tribes.
Mhm.
And then of the tribe of the sons of Simeon, Samuel, the son of Ammihud, and the tribe of Benjamin, Elidad, whom God loves, the son of Chilson, and the tribe of the sons of Dan, a leader, Buki, emptying of the Lord, and the son of Jogli.
Mhm.
So, the one commentator I listened to, Damian Kyle, he goes, that's just kind of like a cute name, Buki.
Buki.
Okay, Buki. He goes, unfortunate. He's the leader. Okay, Buki.
But anyway,
That's a cute name. If you need a pet name, it's Buki.
Buki's a good
You
name.
could put Buki and it'd be biblical, so it'd be kind of fun.
okay.
Verse 23, of the sons of Joseph, of the tribe of the sons of Manasseh, a leader, Haniel, which means graciousness of God, the son of Ephod, of the tribe of the sons of Ephraim, a leader, Kemuel, gathering of God, the son of Shiphthan, and of the tribe of the sons of Zebulun, a leader, Elizaphan, Elizaphan, something like that. Elizaphan, which says God hides, the son of Parnik.
Okay.
Okay, Buki.
So- and one more slide, I think.
Of the verse 26, of the tribe of the sons of Issachar, a leader, Paltiel, which stands for deliverance of God, the son of Azan, of the tribe of the sons of Asher, a leader, Ahiud, brother of Majesty, the sons of Shelomai, and of the tribe of the sons of Naphtali, a leader, Pedahel, God has ransomed, the son of Ammihud.
Okay, so these would be administrative leaders, one from each tribe to oversee the land distribution. In verse 29,
These are the ones whom the Lord commanded to apportion the inheritance to the sons of Israel in the land of Canaan.
okay, so they would be charged with the responsibility of making sure that every family had a proper portion of land on which to live and invest and do the things that they needed to do to thrive. So an interesting note is that not only were the tribes organized from a geographical perspective, so each tribe was given a specific geographical portion of the land, but they were also structured in a unique family way. Okay, so the tribes were the portions of land were divided up amongst the tribes, but it wasn't just willy-nilly. There was a pattern and a flow to it. Okay, Judah and Simeon were both sons of Leah. Remember way back when? Remember?
Right.
Yeah, Abraham's
Right.
wife Leah.
No.
Not Abraham. I'm sorry.
Isaac.
Isaac.
Yeah.
So they're sons of Leah. So they were geographically, they were going to be positioned next to each other. And then Benjamin was the son of Rachel, and Dan was the son of Rachel's maid. Okay, so they were portioned together, and then of course Manasseh and Ephraim were both sons of Joseph. Okay, so their regions would be placed next to each other, and then Zebulun and Issachar were both sons of Leah. Okay, and then Asher and Naphtali were sons of Leah's handmaiden and Rachel's handmaiden, respectively. So God places the tribes and places them such that true brothers would dwell next to each other, and the land would be divided, or so there would be less conflict and less disruption between neighboring tribal areas. Okay, so that's just kind of an interesting aside. So, and again, there's that map. Judah being the largest tribe, and ultimately where is Jerusalem, the capital, would be. Okay, in the southern part, and then Simeon, his brother, was within that region. Okay, and then we see, of course, we see Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, as we talked about earlier, on the other side of the Jordan. Okay, Naphtali and Asher, the two sons of the two handmaidens, up near the top. Zebulun, Issachar, okay, next to each other, and then Benjamin and Ephraim and Dan, kind of in the middle there. Okay.
Right. So it's actually Leah was Jacob's first wife.
Jacob. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Isaac's son, Jacob.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Abraham had Isaac, and then Isaac had Jacob, whose name changes to Israel.
Right.
But his first wife was Leah. His second wife was Rachel.
Right.
And then he had some other wives.
He ended up having sons from 4 different women.
Right.
Okay. And that's reflected in the
Right.
in
And that's
this
where the
map.
12 tribes come
Yeah.
from, are the sons of
Right.
Israel, sons of Jacob.
Right. And that's where this map comes from.
Those are
So,
the names come from.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've made it all the way to chapter 35.
Yes,
And I guarantee you we will not get all the way through chapter 35.
No, maybe.
But we've come quite a ways.
That's right.
So we're right on the edge here. Now this is an important chapter. Because in all of this divvying up of the land, again, many chapters ago, God had said that the Levites, sons of Aaron, or descendants of Aaron, they would not be included in this distribution of land. The Levites, because of their priestly duties, would not be given the same allotment of land, but they would be given a portion to dwell in. Okay, interspersed amongst the tribes. So again, this makes logical sense. The Levites were the only ones that could rightly tend to the temple, tend to the priestly duties and things of that nature. So their portions were interspersed amongst the other tribes. And there's a couple of other important things that are also interspersed amongst the tribes. So we have this major dividing up of the promised land according to tribes, and then we have smaller substructures or subdivisions amongst the tribes, and that's what chapter 35 is about. Here we go.
Numbers 35, verse 1. Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Command the sons of Israel that they give to the Levites from the inheritance of their possession cities to live in, and you shall give to the Levites pasture lands around the cities.
Okay, a couple of things here. Verse 1 is telling us that Moses is still alive, and they have not crossed the Jordan yet, so the two logically go together. Okay, and then he's telling them that yes, each tribe is going to be given this allotment of land, but among that, a portion or a city or two will be set aside specifically for the Levites to dwell in, because the only property that they could own would be, we would say urban property. They were not entitled, because of their responsibilities, to own outright farmland, but they could have a portion of land, pasture land and garden lands, obviously necessary for survival in those days. So God is taking care of them, okay, but they do not get a much larger geographic region.
Yeah, I mean, in part it's because the role of the Levites is to take care of the temple, the tabernacle, the temple, and everything, all the duties, of all the sacrifices
Right.
and everything. And so, two things. I mean, the surrounding peoples need to provide for them so they can focus on their duties with the tabernacle, and God's calling on their life, God's very specific directions for their life. Then if they were given, more land, and they would need to be tending to that, they would
Right.
need to be concerned about that, they would need to be trying to plant the crops, they would need to be trying to, harvest the crops, trying to make sure the animals are cared for and fed, and, so that it's a whole business, farming, agriculture, it's a business, it's a full-time gig. And there's people who have little ranchettes and have a little plot of land and grow some vegetables and have a raised bed of vegetables and stuff like that. Like, we know people who do that, and they have wonderful, vegetables from right here in El Dorado Park in Long Beach.
Right.
But that's something they can do as a hobby. If you start having, an allotment of land like everyone else is getting, then that takes your time and your focus, and then it would take, their energies and focus off of what the duties God had given them, and then that would come between them and their duties. So it's not like God's depriving them. God has a very specific calling on all the Levites, and then the line of Aaron is the high priest line. So there's even more specific calling there, but it's so that they can stay on track
Right.
with the call that God has put on their lives. It's
Right.
not a punishment and it helps the people of Israel acknowledge that as well and say, we will provide for you. We will give you some pasture land. They'll give them animals from time to time. So, so they could have fresh milk for the goats, or, from their goats or different things, so they can have some resources. They're not like destitute waiting for people to donate, at the
Right.
temple, but it has to be this sort of balance. Pretty cool, actually.
Verse 3.
The cities shall be theirs to live in, and their pasture land shall be for their cattle and for their equipment and for all their other animals. The pasture lands of the cities which you are to give to the Levites shall extend from the wall of the city outward 1,000 cubits around. So there's a special area that's going to be that's priestly pasture land, basically.
Right.
Levites. Not all Levites are priests, but it is the pasture land for the temple servants.
The temple servants, yes, and pasture land.
Temple
So they
workers.
could, like Gay said, they can raise their own livestock for sustenance and,
Cool.
and things of that nature. But essentially, they are going to be the urban dwellers. Okay, verse 5.
You shall also measure outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, on the south side 2,000 cubits, on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits, with the city in the center. This shall become theirs as pasture lands for the cities.
Okay, so God is generously giving an area that so they would not have to travel too far away from the city.
Right,
Okay.
right.
to
He's not
carry
going to
out their
assign them
duties.
a day's journey away, because
Yeah.
they have to be able to attend to the temple and all of their duties there. The NLT says the 2,000 cubits. It translates that into 3,000 feet. So
Oh, I'm sitting next to Marie with my own view. Well, welcome, Manny and Marie.
with my own view,
Thanks for joining
I'm
us.
glad you guys are here.
Verse 6.
You have your own area, like you've been assigned a special area to. Okay, verse 6. The cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be the 6 cities of refuge, which you shall provide for the one who commits manslaughter to flee to, and in addition to them, you shall give 42 cities. So there's 6 cities of refuge plus 42 additional cities. The total number of cities which you are to give to the Levites shall be 48. Oh, I just said that. Okay, cities together with their pasture lands.
Okay. Now again,
6 plus 42, 48. Got it.
city, of course, has a much different meaning in this time frame than it does in our modern mindset.
NLT calls it towns.
Towns, yeah, towns,
Like
settlements.
villages, towns. It's
yeah.
not like it's a whole giant city.
Recall that there are already many established settlements in the Promised Land, and soon those will be, in fact, the contested lands that the Israelites will take over, okay, according to God's will and promise, okay. So it sounds like a lot. Wow, 48 cities. Well, think of 48 villages or 48 settlements, or
Right.
things of that nature, but specifically set aside for the Levites to dwell in within the context of other tribal lands.
Right, because like the Levite family leaders, like they have wives and kids, and then as they get old, the kids will have wives and husbands and kids, and so they need an area that's their area, because they will generationally all be Levites. So they
Right.
will all be born into this role of serving in the temple.
In some capacity, which we've talked about in previous chapters, be it tending to the firewood, or the cleaning of the coals, or the mending of materials.
Yeah, so
or the
they'll have to
carrying of
repair,
transporting. Yeah. So then there's this concept of refuge cities, which we'll discuss for a few verses here. Okay. So amongst those 48 cities that would be distributed amongst the other tribes, all the tribes, and which the Levites would be specifically given to dwell in, okay, 6 of those throughout the land would be designated as refuge cities, which is a huge concept. And we'll get into it here in just a little bit. And essentially, the summary statement is given in verse 6, where it says that these refuge cities will be provided for the one who commits manslaughter to flee to. Okay, and so we're going to get into that here in just a second. So here we go.
So verse 8, as for the cities which you shall give them from the possession of the sons of Israel, you shall take more from the larger, and you shall take fewer from the smaller. Each shall give some of his cities to the Levites in proportion to his inheritance which he possesses.
Okay, no favoritism just because they're Levites. They're not to be given favoritism. The cities which will be given to them will be proportional to the size of the tribe. Okay, so there'll be more cities in the region that's occupied by the tribe of Judah.
Like Judah and Manasseh, like if you go back to that map, like the bigger areas.
Right.
There'd be, because there's, 48 total
Right.
cities that are going to be divvied up amongst the 12 tribes. So it's not going to be just like take 48 divided by 12 and each tribe will have 4 cities. That's
Right.
not going to be how it goes, because Judah's a much bigger area, so they're going to have more than 4 cities. And like Simeon, which was a smaller area, might only have 1 or 2 cities.
Right, and I mean, we kind of see that in just a modern example is sort of like how many representatives we have in our federal government. It's proportionate to the population of the state. Okay, so California obviously has many more than, say, Rhode Island or Hawaii, simply because of the population
Right.
size.
Hi,
Same
Rose.
concept.
How
same
are you,
concept.
Rose? Good to see you.
Hello. So good. Here we go. Guzik comments. He says, this reflects God's desire to evenly distribute to the Levites, who are to be the most spiritually focused Israelites, i.e. the full-time ministers, evenly throughout Israel, so that their influence could be distributed throughout the whole nation. Okay, Levites knew they were Levites. Their other tribes knew the special calling, if you will, on the tribe of Levi. Okay, they knew what they were to do. They knew their responsibilities. And the Levites were to be spread out amongst the people to influence, to have influence.
Right.
Okay. And then I love what Guzik says in the second paragraph here. In the same way, God does not intend that there be a Christian country or state where all the Christians live together in spiritual bliss. Not yet. Not yet. Not this side of the second coming. Okay. In the same way, God does not intend that there be a Christian country or state where all Christians live together and everything's hunky-dory, okay? And to simply say to the world, come and join us if you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
come and join us. Come and join us. We're over
If you
here. All the
want.
Christians are over here.
Hey, the doors are open.
Yeah,
Anytime
come on.
you want to come
Come
in.
on in.
Right, you know? Right. God wants Christians to be sprinkled throughout the whole world, influencing people for Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And we, last year, Gay and I did a fantastic 6-week series. Yeah, 6 weeks or something like
10
that.
weeks on
10
the
weeks.
engagement project
The
you're talking
engagement
about? Yeah, I was going to say
project, yeah.
that goes right with the engagement
Yeah,
project.
and it was called the Engagement Project, and it had nothing to do with premarital counseling
Yeah,
or
not
anything like
engaged
that.
to be married.
Right. It was, how do we as Christians engage the people whom we are among?
Right.
Okay.
The community around
And
us. How do we influence?
And the catchphrase was, you live where you live because God wants you there.
Right.
Okay? You might think it's because, well, I've earned enough money to be able to afford the house in this neighborhood, or I like the school district, or, you know, or it's close to my job. But ultimately, it's because God is placing us where we live so that we can be salt and light to the community around us.
Right. So Robin had a question. She said, I guess talking about the Levites and them being given these portions, how long did it take them to start distorting the system for their own gain?
Not long at all.
Probably not, but you know, like this is like the system
Yeah.
of like the Pharisees and things. In
Yeah.
Jesus' time, you know, they had become so elitist and added to God's word so much to make it such a burden on the people. That's why Jesus was angry and turned over the tables in the temples, you know, because by that time they had really, really gone too far. And Jesus told them many times, you know, even in the book of Matthew, when we did that study on Sunday mornings with the light, you know, he told them many times, like, you know the law, but you do not get it.
Right.
You do not get it. You are wrong. You are interpreting it dead wrong. So, and then Mama Rose says, yes, we are to be distributed amongst the world. So our lights, you know, can shine for
Yep.
Jesus. That's
Absolutely.
right. Exactly
Absolutely.
right. Exactly
100%
right.
right. So the Levites were to be hopefully a positive spiritual influence amongst the tribes that they. So keep in mind that the temple was centrally located. It would be located ultimately in Jerusalem, and that's where it would dwell. And the Levites would serve their portion of their. So basically, they were free to go back to their refuge, or not their refuge, to their city, until it was time for their service again. So they weren't constantly dwelling in the temple or around the temple. They rotated.
Right.
Okay, because remember, there's several thousand Levites. Okay?
Right.
So, but the point is that these refuge or these Levitical cities are to be distributed throughout the land, proportional to the size of the tribes. Okay, in much the same way that our government representatives are number according to the population of each state. Okay, so verse 9.
Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall select for yourselves cities or towns to be your cities of refuge. so that the one who commits manslaughter by killing a person unintentionally may flee there.
Okay. Well, that sounds kind of crazy. Why?
That's pretty serious accident.
Yeah.
It
Why?
killed someone.
Why? Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah,
I mean, manslaughter does happen. People argue, and then things go awry, and it wasn't premeditated or anything like
I
that.
know. It just seems interesting to me. Like, I know that term, manslaughter is a actual term in our legal system and everything.
is.
But I was just thinking, like, it seems interesting to me because that just still seems like murder. But murder is premeditated, murder one, murder two. And so, I mean, as we've talked about before, our legal system today is actually based in all of this that we've been studying in Leviticus and Exodus and here in Numbers, this concept of manslaughter versus murder. This is where it comes from,
And we'll get into it a little bit.
But it's gonna go into it.
Explain it a little bit.
But my brain sort of keeps like puzzling on it.
Right.
Like, okay, you still killed someone. So, and then it had to be somewhat intentional. I mean, it's not, I don't know, like it's manslaughter because you didn't think about it a lot beforehand, or, one of my commentators was saying like, so, it was just an accident, like they were out working in the field and he said, I think that's what he said, like the axe head flew off the axe and hit the other guy and now he's dead.
Right.
And so you can now run to a city of refuge because there's no system of judges at this time in place. There's no king, there's no system of judges, and there is a system of each family like writing the situation if they have been wronged. And so they would come the what's it called, the redeemer, kinsman redeemer.
Right.
So the kinsman redeemer of the clan is obligated to go and make it right if if the family has been wronged, to find you. But if you have fled to the city of refuge, that buys you some time.
You're
and
protected.
You're protected, and they can't just come and kill you for having killed someone.
Is that like where Cain fled to? There weren't cities of refuge established in that time frame, but that was the intent. That was Cain's intent, was to flee. And then, but remember, God somehow marked him.
Right.
Okay, he marked him, and so everybody could tell that this one is not to be touched. But a city of refuge would be a physical place where somebody could run to, so that revenge would not be extracted upon them.
Well, and the idea was present in Exodus and Leviticus when it was talking about the altar and the horns of the altar.
Right.
If a person was
Grabbed
guilty
it.
of something or thought to be guilty of something, and they grabbed the horns of the altar, then that was a point of refuge, a protection. So this is just now making it more like this is a whole town or village or encampment that is a place of refuge. If you have reason to be, somebody thinks you did something really bad, you better go there. So you can basically try to clear your name or tell your side of the story.
Right. And this concept held true. I know up and through the Middle Ages. I don't know how much beyond that it is, but if you're familiar with the story of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, okay, that he sought sanctuary in the cathedral of Notre Dame, and as long as he was there, he was untouchable as far as like
they couldn't kill him.
Right. Okay. Same idea. So 6 of these cities are to be set up, and as we'll come to see, they're to be distributed so that from anywhere in the land, theoretically, somebody could get there relatively easily. And we'll see God's stipulation for that is very, very clear. Okay, so here we go.
I
verse
just
12.
I just think that it's interesting, like they define it, that manslaughter is killing a person unintentionally. Yeah, that's big unintentional accident. But anyway, that's what manslaughter is. So in the Bible,
because theoretically, I mean, somebody could be accused of killing somebody when it was just accidental. I mean, just yeah, like she said, and
Right.
we'll see some examples
Right.
here.
We're going to get some examples.
Yeah.
God's going to define it. So
Yeah.
that's good. So verse 12, the cities shall serve you as a refuge from the avenger, so that the one who commits manslaughter does not die until he stands before the congregation for trial.
Okay, so the idea was
So-
is that immediate revenge would not be extracted, but it would assure a way, if an individual could get there, assure a way that they would be given a fair trial,
Right.
rather than just prairie justice or whatever you want to
Right.
call it, lynch
Yeah.
mob justice.
Right.
Okay. Guzik explains it a little bit more. In ancient culture of Israel, it was not left entirely up to the government, like it is today, to avenge a murder. Each extended family had a recognized avenger, okay, kinsman redeemer, sometimes it's called, who would ensure that one who murdered a family member would likewise be killed. This practice was based upon a correct understanding of Genesis 9:6, which says, "Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God, God made man." Okay, so it's accountability. It's accountability. So if somebody murders somebody, they would be held responsible. Okay, and again, there's a distinction between murder and kill. Okay,
Right.
murder and kill.
Unintentionally killed.
And refuge cities would give an individual an opportunity to clear their name or to explain the situation more fully. So verse 13 tells us,
So the cities which you are to provide shall be 6 cities of refuge for you. You shall provide 3 cities across the Jordan and 3 cities in the land of Canaan. They are to be cities of refuge. So 3 cities on the east side of the Jordan, where the 2.5 tribes were, and then 3 cities on the west side of the Jordan.
or thereabouts. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but distributed
3 cities across the
evenly
Jordan and 3
across,
cities
yeah,
in the
evenly
land of
across the
Canaan.
land occupied by the tribes of Israel. Joshua, which we haven't gotten to yet, Joshua records that the actual choice of the cities tells us where they were. Okay, they fulfilled the plan of being evenly distributed perfectly. Also in Deuteronomy, it tells us that, get this, in Deuteronomy it breaks it down even further, and the people are told that they must maintain roads to the cities, to and from
Right.
the cities. The point being that a city of refuge is no good if you can't get there. If you can't get there quickly and easily, then it's no good to have a city of refuge. Okay, so this network was to be set up for the benefit of the people, so that they could go there and not be killed.
I found the map.
Oh, I wonder if you could hold that up to the camera.
I don't know. I could try.
I did not include a city of refuge map, but Gabe
But
found one.
let's see if this works. Let's see how this works.
If nothing else, you can see how they're evenly
Right.
distributed throughout the land.
Pretty cool. Very even.
Okay? So I hope that worked. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a little bit offbeat, but never done that before, but
It worked. I was just like, wow, that is pretty cool.
we'll
Like,
make do. How does wartime killing fall into this?
that's different.
It's considered you are defending your nation and you are defending your peoples and things of that nature. So it's
That's a good question.
not considered murder
Right.
in the
Or
same sense,
manslaughter.
unless somebody goes rogue and they violate the terms of war. There are, believe it or not, there are terms of war. Okay. And if somebody violates that, then it's considered murder.
Right.
But in the course of battle to,
Right.
soldier to soldier battle, it's not considered
Or like,
murder.
people are flying planes and drop bombs and they
Yeah.
kill many people. They're not murdering and it's not manslaughter because they're at war and in the terms of war that is in the context of war. But that's a good question.
Good question, Robin. Okay, and that's why when we talk about the 10 Commandments, that a better interpretation of the one commandment is that the thou shalt not
Murder. It doesn't, yeah, and thou shalt not kill
Yeah.
is a broader term, but it actually is better translated, the term that's there. Thou shalt not murder.
Because that implies wicked intent.
Right, forethought, planning. Murder one is different than manslaughter
And
or,
hatred and all
or
those
wartime
things, yeah.
killing.
Verse 15.
These six cities shall be a refuge for the sons of Israel, for the stranger and for the foreign resident among them, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there. So if you murder someone, the city of refuge is not a refuge for you. If you've plotted and planned
As
and
we'll see.
murdered.
Yeah.
But if you accidentally, unintentionally happen to kill somebody, you may go to the city of refuge.
Okay?
Don't.
And notice, the
Unintentional.
important component of this verse is that it applies to Israelites, to strangers and foreign residents, okay?
Right.
Non-Jews. It applies to them in the same. Justice is equal. This is God's way. Justice is equal. Okay? And Guzik says the same thing. Anyone, stranger or citizen, who needed to find protection in a city of refuge could. This protection was not limited to the children of Israel. Okay? Unlike in the case in the first century, when Paul used his Roman citizenship to his advantage, because Roman citizens were exempt from certain punishments, but not the general populace, Roman citizens. In this case, refuge cities, that it was anyone who could get there would be safe. Verse 16.
But
Here's the but.
But if he struck him with an iron object so that he died, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. If he struck him with a stone in the hand by which he would die, and as a result he did die, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. Or if he struck him with a wooden object in the hand by which he would die, as a result he did die, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death.
So I think this kind of answers some of your question, perhaps,
So
Robin.
you can't accidentally strike somebody so hard that you kill them and say, oh, it was an accident. That's not an accident.
Right.
So,
You picked up an iron object to strike somebody.
yeah, iron or
And
stone
here-
or wood, you know.
Here, the key component is intent.
Right.
Intent. You grabbed something, you picked something up, you intentionally took something in your hand with the intent of causing
Harm.
harm or worse.
Yes.
Okay?
So that,
You
yeah.
are considered a murderer, and the law
There's
is
no
clear.
refuge.
The law
right?
is clear.
There's no refuge. You can go sit to the city to seek it, but you shall not get refuge.
So Robin asks the question, so David killing Goliath is what? It is
It was in war.
killing. He killed him.
Right.
He killed him because it was in the context of war.
Remember, they were
This
soldiers.
context
They
in
were,
the war, and Goliath was blaspheming God. Okay, and David said that is not acceptable.
Right. The two
And-
armies were standing off, right? And so,
Yeah.
right, and Goliath had intimidated the entire
So-
Israel army.
So
you know.
David killed Goliath.
Right.
He killed the enemy of the people of Israel and the enemy of God
Right.
in that point.
In a battle. So it wasn't murder or manslaughter.
Right.
It was victory. It was victory. Does that make sense?
So going back, it says, so if an individual is deemed a murderer because of intent, okay, peacetime intent, okay, then he is considered a murderer, and according to the law, he is to be put to death. Okay, the consequences for murder is death.
Right.
However,
Verse 19, the blood avenger himself shall put the murderer to death. He himself shall put him to death when he meets him.
okay.
So
the-
in the NLT, it says the victim's nearest relative is responsible for putting the murderer to death. When they meet the avenger, must put the murderer to death.
Okay. And again, part of this system is it might seem a bit abhorrent to us, but it's to make the population acutely aware of the gravity of murderous intent, and to place the accountability upon the family, and many things. Many things are wrapped up in this. So it's just not this clean, tidy, oh, don't worry, they'll take care of it. It makes it much more real and much more serious in the minds of the people. So the blood avenger, the nearest relative, the redeemer,
kinsman redeemer,
is to be responsible for doing it. And again, this is to reiterate the seriousness of what's going on. Verse 20. So here's some caveats.
So
hopefully it'll help Robin or help us all.
Help us understand some of the nuances.
Right.
So verse 20, now, if he pushed him in hatred or threw something at him with malicious intent, and as a result he died, or if he struck him with his hand with hostility, and as a result he died, the one who struck him must be put to death. He is a murderer. The blood avenger shall put the murderer to death when he meets him.
Okay.
So it depends on the intent, the heart,
intent.
And the motive is what we say in the court of law. What's the motive? Did that person have motive
Right.
For, taking that person's life, or, being guilty of the crime? Did they have motive? If there was motive, then you are more likely to be convicted.
So what were the opposite? So what's the counter to this? Well, it's the words of Jesus. Love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. Love your neighbor as yourself. The Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Okay, so all throughout Scripture we see this. Mm-hmm. So if there is hatred or intent or planning involved here, it's considered murder. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the penalty for that is death.
Well, and Jesus even said, if you harbor that in your heart, you have committed murder.
You have committed murder.
Right. So, he went even further than was stated here in the Old Testament, and just the same thing with lusting after an individual, right, being the same as having committed adultery, because it's in your heart. It's the intent.
Right.
And actually it's harboring that kind of hatred and everything, right, is actually, it's harmful to the other person, of course, if you end up killing them and taking their life, but it's actually most harmful to us, to ourselves, by harboring all that toxic emotion and feeling in our hearts and our minds. It becomes a wall, it eats us away inside out, slowly or quickly, and it becomes a wall between us and God. It is sin. Harboring ill will and hatred is sin.
Well, we're out of time.
Yeah, we are.
We're out of time.
I know.
And the next verse begins with the little word, but.
So
okay.
We're going to end on the cliffhanger.
So we're going to leave you with a cliffhanger.
But,
we're literally going to leave you with a cliffhanger, because the next word is but. I need that. So
okay.
So next week we'll pick up
verse 22.
Verse 22, and we'll see how this continues to be resolved.
We'll start with the word but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we'll get into chapter 36. So.
And then we'll do Twitter summary.
It'll
probably be the beginning of March. We'll be starting Deuteronomy. So I was just going to encourage people to, obviously read ahead for the next couple of weeks, but, be praying about our study of the book of Deuteronomy. It's going to be amazing, and it's the last book of the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. So I hope we've all been memorizing these, as many Jewish people have. Mm-hmm. I have not memorized anything, but it's amazing that some, Orthodox Jewish people actually have memorized all 5 of these books. Just think about that. So I'm just thanking God that we get to study them and examine them together and go through verse by verse. It's been a super fun journey. But, we'll pray that you guys have a great week. If you're in a rainy area, stay dry and safe. If you're in a freezing, rainy area, stay warm,
And
dry, and safe, Angie. And thank you guys for
Thank you.
joining us again. And we just really appreciate your love and your support, and hope that you have a great rest of your week. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow. This is the 13th of February, so happy Valentine's Day. Jesus is the best Valentine
There you
we
go.
could ever have, right?
Yeah.
Love you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.